Josh Konigsberg here, partner and co-founder at law firm Marketing Pros. I am here today with the Chief Marketing Officer for Speaks Law Firm, a personal injury law firm in North Carolina. I'm here with Keith Dyer. Keith, nice to have you with me here today.
Thank you for having me, Josh. Good to see you.
Could you please introduce yourself, your firm, and I said your title, but introduce yourself to the listeners and watchers here.
Yeah, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer with Speaks Law Firm. We have offices in Wilmington, North Carolina, and Charlotte, North Carolina. We also operate in many of the markets in between those two cities. Basically, it's the southeastern quadrant of North Carolina, from the coast all the way to the other side of Charlotte to the edge of the mountains.
Okay, great. And so how did you first learn about law firm Marketing Pros?
When I was hired by the firm a couple of years ago to help organize their marketing and select vendors, I basically did a search and went on a journey of sorts to find some vendors to interview and to evaluate based upon the work that was going on currently in digital marketing within the firm, which we felt like was not up to par. For lack of a better explanation, a vendor was doing the digital marketing that was better at doing something else. And so they were good at doing that other thing, but we knew they were not up to par digitally. So we went out on a bit of a journey and searched for vendors, as I mentioned, and Law Firm Marketing Pros came up to us through a coaching program that we were part of. We were considering to be, actually we had, by that time, we had joined that coaching program. And so they were recommended to us as at least someone we should interview. And then so we put Law Firm Marketing Pros through an interview process, a pretty vigorous one, with several other firms, and they ended up winning the job. They ended up winning the spot as our digital marketing vendor.
And it was quite a rigorous interview process, as I recall. And that's going back to, I believe, the end of the first quarter of 2022. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, it might have even started. It feels like it was earlier. Yeah, that's correct. In the first quarter of 2022. That's right.
Yeah, because we ended up engaging in May, so that would be about.
I think we started talking to you guys in March.
Okay,
late February, March, and then the process went on probably through April, and then we ended up hiring you in May.
So were there specific problems that you could identify with the other agency, or they just weren't a specific digital marketing agency and just weren't very good at it?
When I first got to the firm, I started building in attribution and contribution models to see where cases came from and what our cost per acquisition was. And so what we noticed is that our pay-per-click budgets were just out of control. And the amount of money we were spending in a month, which could be upwards of 50, 60 grand, the number of cases that we got from those campaigns were so low. And then we just kind of started peeking behind the curtain and doing some audits and seeing that things were not where they should be, and that we could be a lot more efficient with our pay-per-click spends, and that we could be a lot more consistent with our LSA spends, as well as our LSA visibility and our SEO visibility.
So what was going on in the practice, and I'll be more specific, like how many leads were you getting a month via the digital marketing efforts, number of new cases, revenue, and what were your client acquisition costs?
Wow, to think back on all of that would be a little bit difficult. Okay. I know that our cost per acquisition was way higher than it should be. It was running, I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but it was running at like 50 to 60%, right, which is way too high of the total value of the cases. And so that was a problem. We knew that. And with pay-per-click, it was way even more than that. I mean, it wasn't even profitable, right? So we knew that. In terms of cases, we were running at probably 40 to 50 cases a month and attributing to digital was difficult for us to do because we didn't really know exactly how many were coming from digital at that time. We have a much better idea now, but that's also because we do see plenty of cases coming in through strictly digital methods where we're running TV and radio, et cetera. So our contribution to attribution is built better now to be able to answer that question. But we just knew there were inefficiencies, and we knew that we could get more cases if we were more efficient. And the more efficient we were with our money, the more cases we could buy.
Makes perfect sense. So was there something specific that law firm marketing pros implemented or put in place that made a difference for you?
I think the thing that sticks out to me was in the beginning, I'm like, why are we having meetings constantly? Why is there all this information? Like, this kid, Nico, is driving me crazy. And I liked him, but I was like, we'd be only hour and a half long meetings. And what started to click, though, over time with me is, when you're in the law firm marketing space, and especially the digital space, it's the most competitive industry in the entire search industry, right? It's the most competitive that there is. So it requires a lot of detail and a lot of work. And I'll go back to this saying, those people that are successful, or those, in this case, the firms that are successful, are the ones that are willing to do what others are unwilling to do. And so going through these meetings and getting all this information and staying on top of things the way that you did was what stood out to me as the difference maker, is the attention to detail. And then the attention to detail is what allowed you to take our firm to a different level.
So, well, thank you for that. And thank you for the compliment to Nico. So what you're talking about, in my mind, is the law firm client generation system and the implementation of the various aspects of that make the whole successful. So the parts making the whole successful. Is that a good summary of it?
It is. That makes sense. And it's not here's what it really isn't. And maybe that's the best way to describe it. It's not a set it and forget it kind of deal.
Right. It can't be, right.
It can't be because it's too competitive.
That's
and
right.
So for people to think that they can do this in-house, you can't, because you can't keep up with the professionals that are required to do it, to stay on top of it, because that's their business and their livelihood. So they go all to the continuing education. They belong to the right groups to learn the cutting edge methods. And which is, I know another thing that your firm does is that you're very involved with the most advanced digital marketing firms in the country for other industries, because you're learning these things. And it requires all of this to be the best. You have to be around the best, learning the best to be the best. And you have to be ever vigilant not to set it and forget it. And that's what law firm marketing pros does not do. They have attention to detail and they don't set it and forget it.
Thank you. So it's been 17 months. So in terms of the lift that we've received, or you've received as our efforts, in terms of number of new cases, number of leads coming in, revenue per month, and how we've dropped your client acquisition costs. Because I recall a conversation about 90 days into the relationship where it was, well, we haven't seen an increase in cases, but our overall costs have dropped by 30%, which is not a bad thing, right?
Well,
it takes longer than 90 days. I'm sorry.
Our positions had not changed, but our costs were lower, so that's okay.
That's right.
That just means that we need to stay with it. And if we trusted what you told us, which we did, we stuck with the process. We also were smart enough, I shouldn't say smart enough, experienced enough. I can show you the scar marks on my back when I say that. We were experienced enough to know that it doesn't happen overnight. SEO takes 12 to 18 months. Pay-per-click needs to be optimized over a period of 90 to 180 days, somewhere in that range, 120 days.
Oh, yeah.
So, we knew all that. So that tempered our expectations. So we were okay with the lowered costs and we remained patient. And then we also were able to take some of those savings and put it into some other things that we can buy cases to make up for whatever we thought we might be getting from the extra expenses through pay-per-click that we were experiencing.
So in terms of new cases per month, you were at 40 to 50. I think last I saw you were about 120 cases a month.
Yeah, we're averaging somewhere between 100 and 120 a month. It goes up and down.
Well, that as
But that's pretty-
accidents go up and down, right? Every month.
They do,
Right.
and it's just it's pretty predictable, which is what we really are looking for is predictable revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we didn't have before was 40 cases, 70 cases, 30 cases. It was a much bigger swing.
Right.
Now it's 95, 120, 100, 110 monthly, right? It's more predictable revenue.
Which is very comforting.
It is because, any law firm, regardless of the size, wants to make sure there's enough cases coming in every month to cover expenses and to make profit. That's just what we're here for, right?
That's right. So in terms of revenue per month, and if you're not comfortable talking about this, that's fine. But I know where you were, and not counting any ginormous catastrophic cases, where are you? Are you comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, we were a $1 to $3 million firm, and we're on our way to being 8 figures.
Yeah, exactly. And that's in just 17 months, right?
Yeah, that's not 8 figures because of a giant case or 8 figures because of 3 giant cases mixed in. We sort of take those out and look at the bread and butter cases. And are we going to make that the level that we want based upon those only, right? We look at both because you have to, but we'll take out anything that's abnormal,
Got it.
Yeah. So that's where we are.
So you mentioned client acquisition cost earlier, and we talked about a drop. So what's that looking like for you now?
Well, I mean, the more volume that you have, the lower it becomes, right? Because you begin to outrun costs. So that's what we've experienced is that our cost per acquisition we expanded to one market and our cost per acquisition was ridiculously high. We've been able to stabilize it and get it lower, while in a market where we were more established, which the cost per acquisition was not bad, we've been able to actually improve it to a nice extent,
Right. And so, and we know that if you could, the more organic traffic that you can get, the more organic conversions you can get, the lower your acquisition costs.
Right.
So you mentioned choosing us over the interviewing process, and the choices that other attorneys have, they can choose to do business with us. They can choose to do business with someone else. They could try to do it on their own, or they can do nothing at all. Right. And so, was there one thing that made the decision for Speaks Law to choose to do business with law firm marketing pros?
It's 2 things: the professionalism,
Really?
and I'll go back to the word I've been using since we first started talking, the thoroughness. So I'll put it to you this way: there wasn't an inexperienced group of people or person that we came in contact with in the process. Everyone we talked about was a high-level professional that had been in the business for a long time, that knew our language. It wasn't a young person. I'm sorry, an inexperienced person that did not speak our language, that did not understand our pain. That was the difference.
Okay.
Right. I dealt with people that were like yourself and Andy and Vince and the other partners in the firm. That's who we talked to. We didn't talk to baby associates that were like greenhorns, is what we used to call them in another business I was in.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with those people. They're great people and they need to be part of the process. But the comfort level that you get with an experienced professional that's been in the industry for a long time is a different comfort level.
Right. Excellent. So what surprised you the most or made you the happiest about engaging with our services?
The results.
Okay. And so we're getting results. How has that changed the practice? Like, what has it done for Speaks Law Firm?
Well, with predictability breeds confidence. confidence breeds boldness, willingness to take more risks.
So you have the resources to invest in more. Is that what
And we
you're
have
saying by taking?
confidence that, okay, we may try this over here with this much money to figure this out or try to do, but we always know that what we've got in place is working fine. When you know things are working in place, the things that you have in place are working is a better way to say this. When you know those things are working, you're in a much better position, both mentally and practically, to go try different things and to take risks. And in business, risks are needed to be taken.
So, and that's so well said. So, how has working with law firm marketing pros changed Clark Speaks' life?
I think just giving him more confidence.
Okay.
He feels confident that he has the right vendor in place, and that he does. When you're not confident about that, everything comes into question. When you don't have the right people in place, you can't move forward to go build new things and try new things because you're still stuck with the old problems, right? The old problems of we don't have the right people on the bus. We don't have the right vendors. But when you grow and you succeed in your growth, your problems change. Right? And so he has new problems now, but that's okay because those are problems that you have when you become a bigger law firm.
Right. But he knows he has a predictable, manageable flow of new clients and therefore future cash flow, right?
Correct.
Right.
And when you get to be at the level that we're at now, if you have to pull a lever here or there to get to rein things under control or to rein in costs if they're too high, you can do that and still have the base of what you're trying to do performing for you.
Got it. Okay. So if you were to recommend law firm marketing pros to a colleague, what would you say?
Well, if you want a firm that's gonna partner with you in a way that is genuine, then they're your firm, and a vendor that's going to take very seriously your personal goals and understand where your revenue wants to be and what you're trying to do. They're going to tailor a solution for you that's going to work. And then there's going to be a strategy to stair step your growth from that perspective, that position. And so it's a very different conversation about, oh, are we showing up when people search for us? Well, of course, but let's step back and say, okay, what is the strategy to get us from 0 to 1 million, 1 million to 3 million, 3 million to 5 million, 5 million to 10 million, right? What's the strategy to do that? And they don't look at it in a vacuum. They see the other parts of marketing that are required to actually bring a firm to a higher level, and they'll advise you on that as well. So that I would tell them that it would be a solution that would bring a lot more value than just being your pay-per-click and your SEO vendor.
Well, thank you. That's a wonderful compliment for the team. I appreciate that. One last question is, what would you say to someone who might be on the fence about using law firm marketing pros? Because I know you've been on the fence. So having been there, done that, 17 months, what would you say to somebody on the fence?
To think about maybe some of the things we've already talked about. Think about the professionalism that you'd like for your vendor to have. Do they have case studies? Have they done this for someone like you before? And I know Law Firm Marketing Pros has done it for all levels of firms, and they have done great things for firms that are trying to get to 7 and 8 figures. So you know that about them, and they'll be able to show you their results. So go with that. Go with the business, the business decision as the right business decision, and not necessarily an emotional decision. Make sure it's not a shiny object, because you guys are not. I think we talked about this before. You're not the sizzle, you're the steak. So think about that. Think about all the firms that have burned you in the past, and know that this one is not going to do that to you.
Well, thank you. That's a wonderful compliment. So that wraps us up for today. Keith, thank you so much for joining me today on this interview. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. And Josh Konigsberg, partner, Law Firm Marketing Pros, signing off. Bye for now.
You're welcome. Thank you.